Welcome, everyone, to this session of Administrator Issues and Updates on January 7th, 2025. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Chair Roberts. Roll call, Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Fireside.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Thank you, Gary. Would you please introduce the first agenda item for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And of course, welcome Chair Roberts and Commissioner Fireside to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff looks forward to serving with you and supporting you and helping you and the entire board be a success and achieve your goals and vision. Welcome. First today is consent agenda review. We are going to do this the way that we have been, although later today in this meeting, I'm going to ask you if you'd like to continue this process or go back to a prior process the board used. But for today, we'll do it how we have been doing it, and that is, these are requests for consent agenda. Consent agenda items are really routine items that are contract renewals or application for grants. It is very routine business that is mostly non-controversial. That's why it's done on what's called the consent agenda at your business meeting. It is just routine, formulaic updates of contracts or agreements. What we do now is that each department will come up one at a time as I call them. I'll read the title of the consent agenda request, and then the staff will give a quick 1 to 2 minute update on what the request is, and then you have the opportunity to ask any questions you may have about the item. And then if you're okay, it will go to this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your action. You're not taking action today, you're just reviewing the request and asking any questions you may have. So that's the process we'll follow today, and we'll start as it is printed on your materials. First is County Counsel. Item 1, approval of a settlement agreement in the case of David Buzza versus Clackamas County et al. Settlement value is $125,000. Funding is through the County Risk Fund. No county general funds are involved. Jeff Munns, Assistant County Counsel. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yes, this is a resolution of an employment discrimination claim alleged by a former employee who had been in the sheriff's office, sought reassignment to a different county position. They claimed that he claimed he was discriminated against. Those claims were denied. We reached a resolution in this case for $125,000, and those funds are all from the Risk Fund.
All right. Does any commissioners have any questions? Seeing no objections, next item.
Very good. Easy. Very good job. Next, disaster management. Item 1, approval of a grant agreement with the State of Oregon for fiscal year 2024 Emergency Management Performance Grant. Total grant value is $136,121 for 1 year. Funding is through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Oregon Department of Emergency Management, and matching funds of $105,957 in budgeted county general funds. Daniel Neibauer, Director of Disaster Management. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Roberts, Administrator Smith, Commissioners. This is an annual grant that we get from FEMA through the State Department of Emergency Management, and we use it to offset some staff costs.
Great. And again, any commissioners' questions or comments? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you.
Next,
Health, Housing, and Human Services. Item 1, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Portland State University's Trauma-Informed Oregon for assessment of public health staff. Total agreement value is $35,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the Oregon Community Foundation and Kaiser. No county general funds are involved. Mary Rumbaugh, Director of Health, Housing, and Human Services. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Roberts, Commissioners. So this agreement establishes a partnership between the Public Health Division and Portland State University to thoroughly evaluate staff's experience and requirements to foster a trauma-informed work environment. The evaluation will include surveys, interviews, and a comprehensive report with actionable recommendations. I'd like to note that previously Health Centers Division and Behavioral Health Division has also worked with Trauma-Informed Oregon with really some great successes of implementing trauma-informed workplace, which ensures that we also then have a trauma-informed approach to the individuals that we serve in this community.
great. Again, any questions, commissioners, or thoughts? Well, seeing no objections, next item. Thank you,
Thank
Mary.
you. Item 2, approval of an intergovernmental revenue agreement with Multnomah County for shared after-hour emergency phone response services. Total agreement value is $14,315 for 18 months. Funding is through Multnomah County. No county general funds are involved.
So the Clackamas County Behavioral Health Division is required to maintain a 24/7 phone line for public health emergencies. By contracting through Multnomah County with a company called PhoneMed, they will provide the dedicated after-hours phone line, which includes live intake by qualified healthcare navigators, and will help triage patients using standardized medical procedures. This contract will cover all 3 counties, but each county will receive an individualized report from the company.
Great. No, I see nobody have any questions, so seeing no objections, the next item there.
Thank you. Item 3, approval of an amendment to the Community Mental Health, Addiction Treatment, Recovery and Prevention, and Problem Gambling Services Intergovernmental Agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for individual forensic evaluations. The amendment value is $40,000 for 6 months. Total agreement value is increased to $17,007,595.75 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
So currently, individuals that are part of the Aid and Assist program who are in community restoration, so these are individuals not at the Oregon State Hospital, are required to receive a forensic evaluation. And the current process is that is done through the Oregon State Hospital. And there is a significant backlog, well over a year, for individuals to be scheduled. So the Oregon Health Authority has initiated additional funding to allow each community county to actually purchase forensic evaluations within the county. And we do actually have, through relationship with the Sheriff's Office, a contract, so we will be able to add additional capacity for these required forensic evaluations.
Great. Commissioners, questions? Seeing none. Next item then.
Thank you. Item 4, approval of a renewal of a healthcare services contract with Care Oregon for services to young individuals experiencing symptoms consistent with diagnosable psychotic disorder. Renewal value is $50,000 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $100,000 for 2 years. Funding is through the Oregon Health Plan. No county general funds are involved.
So currently, the ESA program, the Early Assessment and Support Alliance program, which is contracted with LifeWorks, are the only certified program here in the Tri-County. The funding we receive through the Oregon Health Authority, which is direct pass-through, we don't hold any of the dollars, is actually not enough to really make the contract whole. And because most of the individuals who are served through the program are on the Oregon Health Plan through HealthShare Care Oregon has made a commitment that if there is any deficit in the annual contract, they will then provide that funding to the Behavioral Health Division to make LifeWorks whole.
Great. Seeing no commissioner questions or objections, next item, Gary?
Yes, thank you. Item 5, approval of an amendment to a fixed-price revenue subagreement with Oregon State University for parenting education. Amendment value is $78,541 for 6 months. Total agreement value is increased to $294,392 for 4 years. Funding is through Oregon State University. No county general funds are involved.
So the Clackamas Parenting Together has provided critical parenting education to Clackamas County families for actually over 11 years. The program, which is funded by Oregon State University in the state of Oregon, provides essential evidence-based parenting education to strengthen family dynamics, reduce harmful behaviors like substance use, and improve social and academic outcomes. The requested amendment will actually cover 0.5 FTE of staff time with some additional support from other grants, which will allow Children, Family, and Community Connections, the Parenting Hub Coordinator, to fund local nonprofit organizations for a total of 30 class series, and 30 workshops.
Not seeing any commissioners' questions. No objections. Next item, Gary?
Thank you. That is it for Health, Housing, and Human Services. Thank you, Mary. Next is Transportation and Development. Item 1, approval of an amendment to an agreement with the Freshwater Trust for the Henry Creek Culvert Fish Passage Project. Amendment value is $50,000 for 1 year. Total agreement value is $150,000 for 2 years. Funding is through county road funds and in-kind services. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, go ahead.
Thank you so much. First, Happy New Year, all. Chair Roberts, Commissioner Fireside, welcome. Again, my name is Dan Johnson, Director of Department of Transportation Development. A lot of the consent items that you're going to see from our department, we build a lot of things. We plan a lot of things, a lot of large things. So essentially, I'm going to start here with the first item, which is a partnership that we have with the Freshwater Trust. Essentially, this is an agreement with the trust. There was an agreement approved by the prior board to partner with them for the replacement of a 12-foot diameter culvert that carries Henry Creek under Arlie Mitchell Road in Rhododendron. Essentially, our partnership, the total project is about $1.3 million, but our financial obligation is pretty limited in this partnership, and at the time was limited to $100,000 of road fund and or in-kind services. The project has been a little bit more complicated than we had thought. So essentially, we're looking to do a minor amendment to that contract to increase it by $50,000 in cash or in-kind services for a total not to exceed $150,000. Those complexities essentially are around right-of-way acquisition and design because it's a pretty complicated project. We're going to replace it with a bridge. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Hearing none, next item.
Thank
Gary.
you. Item 2, approval of an amendment to an agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Knights Bridge Road Malala River Bridge Project. Amendment value is $1,021,089.58. Total agreement value is $4,622,175.58 for 4 years. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Transportation and $474,697.44 of county road funds. No county general funds are involved.
This is another agreement for funding. Essentially, Knights Bridge Road has a bridge on it, essentially that dates back to 1964. And so we're looking to go and retrofit that bridge to reduce the load restrictions on that particular bridge. We got into this agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation to do joint funding on that project. And following the signing of that agreement, the Oregon Department of Transportation Bridge Department essentially increased the restrictions on there, requiring some additional redesign so that we can do we have to do additional improvements to reduce and remove the load restriction on it. So essentially, you have an amendment before you today, which a requested amendment which increases not only funding from the Oregon Department of Transportation in the amount of $916,223.66, but also increases our matching percentage of that, and our matching percent is 10.27% of the project cost, so that increases county road fund contribution $104,865.92. I'd be happy to answer your questions you might have.
Questions? Hearing none. No
Okay.
objections? Gary, and
That is
thank you
all.
very
Thank-
much.
Thank you, Dan. So all of these items will be on this Thursday's business meeting agenda for your final action at that time. Thank you. Chair, if I may move on then. The next topic is 82nd Avenue Transit Project Steering Committee Representation. There's a memo in your packet, and Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, will present. Go ahead.
So we build a lot of things, and we're a part of a lot of planning processes. And so essentially what you have here, you have a partnership between Metro and TriMet to upgrade transit service in the 82nd Avenue corridor. If you look at the attachments that were provided, there's actually a map that shows you the extent of that improvement or that project. Metro, in coordination with TriMet, convened an 82nd Avenue Transit Project Steering Committee in September of 2022, basically to provide input and assess opportunities, not only looking at the mode in which that transit enhancement would be provided, but also the stops and where the terminuses would be on the north and the south. Essentially, that steering committee was, the board was represented on that steering committee by Commissioner Scholl. And essentially, we are wondering if the board, there's one final vote to take place, and that final vote will be taking place here in January. I believe it's the 16th. And we are wondering if the board would like to appoint somebody to be a part or represent the county as a part of that vote. I want to be clear with the board. This is not a financing discussion. This is not a commitment of money. Essentially, this is looking at and voting on the locally preferred alternative. Funding will be done through the MTIP process through TriMet, through Metro and JPAC, which currently Commissioner Savas is a part of that discussion. So essentially, this is just a vote on the locally preferred alternative. Commissioner Scholl's comments to date, staff from our department have been staffing him as a part of that committee. If the board chooses to appoint somebody to represent the county, staff will coordinate with that person, inform them of the comments to date. Essentially, Commissioner Scholl's comments to date have been more around like priorities and is this a priority, but it really hasn't been around the locally preferred alternative. If you see, there's only about 8 stops in Clackamas County that we're looking at. And again, it discusses the mode, which you're looking at bus rapid transit, the stops, and the terminuses. That is all for the most part. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Martha?
Well, thank you, Chair. Colleagues, I'm going to make a recommendation because Commissioner Savas has been kind of our point person on all things transportation for a long time. And I think he'd be the perfect
Commissioner, would you please talk into your microphone?
I think he'd be the perfect person to kind of wrap this up for us because he's got such a vast knowledge of the transportation issues. So do we need a vote for this, Gary, or just a consensus?
When you're ready, yes, a vote, please.
Okay.
Want to make a motion?
I move we appoint, go ahead.
You can we can do it in a discussion, or we can talk now.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll move that we appoint Commissioner Savas to this particular committee.
I'll second.
Okay.
And Paul?
Yeah, I just want to opine on this project a little bit and the transit challenges for my newest colleagues. Welcoming Chair Roberts and Commissioner Fireside. Welcome to a very difficult, challenging issue in Clackamas County, and that is lack of transit coverage in Clackamas County. There's a pattern in the region in which a lot of the investments seem to go north of Clackamas County. As you can see by the map here on one of the pages in the packet, there's a portion of this 82nd corridor which is in Clackamas County. And through the Urban Renewal District, Clackamas County's made some major investments along 82nd Avenue. So it's more improved and I won't say up to standards, but a far more improved safety corridor in the Clackamas County section than the Portland section. As soon as you go over the Portland line, the old 82nd Avenue is tired, has a lot of dilapidated buildings, needs a lot of improvements, a lot of safety issues in this corridor. My challenge, or our challenge, has been from our constituents, I've been on transit committees for over 25 years, since my first one with TriMet, is that the investments don't seem to take place where there is no service. So I'm not adverse to this project, but I will tell you what I will say. If I do attend this meeting and vote, that my concern is we continually reinvest in areas that have transit, and we fail to invest in areas that don't have transit. Over 170,000 people in Clackamas County, over 170,000 people have zero access to transit, defined by transit standards. And yet, we continually invest in areas parallel. Now, on 82nd Avenue, that is served by Line 72, which is the highest used transit line in the region. So it's highly successful. It works for a lot of people. And then parallel to that is the Green Line, which is just a few blocks away. You've got this parallel major investment for high-capacity transit. It just seems foolish that we would put more money in a successful line with a parallel transit line and yet leave the unserved areas still unserved with no plan, no investment, no attention to those areas. You'll hear that from me as long as I'm here, unless things change, and hopefully we'll be discussing that at C4 a little bit. Not this, but the challenges we're facing with transit. So I just want to echo, that's some things I'll be saying with this project. I'm a strong advocate for safety, and I think there are a lot of safety elements that can be improved as ODOT and the city of Portland are working together to improve 82nd Avenue. This is a complementary project. It's not the driving project, but there will be a lot of investment made here. So happy to answer any questions, but I just want to just echo or share with you some of my thoughts.
Great. And I did want to play catch up a little bit. Commissioner Schrader has nominated Paul Savas as the board representative of the 82nd Avenue Transit. Mr. West is seconded to the project being on that, and I just want to make sure we're opening it up for any further discussion. I see Mr. West has.
Thank you, Chair. We didn't ask you, Commissioner Savas, if you wanted this additional responsibility.
Yeah.
But you are, you're up.
just
So
said you
unless
got
you have a different, unless you.
One-time vote. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, unless you have a, if you, I guess it's fair to ask you, are you open and willing to serve and take this vote for the county?
Yeah, it sounds to me, again, as Dan kind of described, it's the preferred alternative. That sounds like a consensus of stakeholders involved, so I would certainly not get in the way of that. And if it's one meeting, it's not a big deal, but I just want to I'd share with you what I will be sharing there. And I'm not sure if Commissioner Scholl echoed that concern or not, but it's something that I'm pretty passionate about.
It was similar comments. I mean, it was more around the priority, the funding, where the funding goes. They're along the very same lines.
Yeah, but it's got a long way to go as far as funding, but this is not a funding decision here.
I'll say I want to thank Commissioner Scholl for his service here. He's did a fantastic job representing the values of the board. He really did, and I think that Commissioner Savas, you will pick up right where he left off and move forward. So I will also second all the comments that Commissioner Schrader made about you. You're the most qualified person here to do it, so thank you for stepping up again and taking care of that.
And I want to thank you for raising your hand to volunteer for that as well, Paul. So,
Don't look for that hand for I have a lot on my plate, so.
so if I could have the clerk take a poll, please.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Gary Schmidt, what is up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next item is 2025 Board Vice Chair Selection Preview. The board has a policy that at your first business meeting in January every year, you will select a vice chair of the commission who will serve when the chair is unavailable to chair meetings. So this role is rotated between the four commissioners who are not the chair. And every January, the board makes a selection of who that will be. You will do that this Thursday at your business meeting, but I just wanted to tee it up for you to think about it. Commissioner Savas is next in the rotation to be the vice chair. It's at the pleasure of the board. You don't have to pick him, but I know he's willing to serve, and it's his turn in the rotation. The term is for 1 year. And then next January, you select another vice chair. The board can change the vice chair at any time they wish during the year, but normally it's a 1-year appointment. So Commissioner Savas, if you're willing, you would be the next in line. Again, you'll make the decision and discussion this Thursday, but I just wanted you to be prepared for that discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time about the process or the role.
Hearing none.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next, board retreat. Every 2 years, the Board of County Commissioners holds a retreat to discuss primarily your board's strategic plan and team building, how you choose to work together as a board. And especially now that there's a change in the board, I highly recommend you also hold a retreat this year, hopefully this month. And so I just wanted to seek your direction if you agree as a board to have a retreat. Yes or no? If the answer is yes, I'd like to talk a little bit about logistics with you. I would propose at least a 2-day retreat, if you're open to it, that we'd hold here at the county during business hours and focus on, to start, your strategic plan discussion and team building, how you work as a team. But my first question is, do you want to hold a retreat? And I'd seek your direction on that.
Commissioner West.
I at this time don't want to hold a retreat. I think there's some looming questions with this board about how it will be governed in the next few months. And that will impact how we strategize and plan. Because of the legal issues that are still looming with Commissioner Fireside, I'm not prepared to do a retreat with this board.
Any other?
Yeah.
Commissioner Savas.
My comments on a little different vein, and that is that I have always been willing and continue to be willing to have retreats and work sessions. I think there's substantial value in that. In the last few years, probably more than that, 4, 5, 6 years, that we have had, no reflection on anyone here, none whatsoever, but we have had some challenges with some board members that were not willing to attend the retreat. So I think it's imperative that we all attend. I don't see much value in having a retreat if we're not all in attendance and physical. I would just ask that everyone be patient, try to work together with each other. But I would qualify it as long as everyone's in attendance, I wouldn't want to have one commissioner not present.
Martha.
Yeah, so let me make a suggestion, colleagues. This is a new commission. We're going to be learning to work together as colleagues. I do think we need a retreat, but why don't we take some time together, just informally, to get to know one another and get a sense of our work styles and that kind of thing. And so it's something I would suggest that we do, but why don't we revisit it in, I don't know, Gary, have you got a time suggestion? Ben, have you got a time out a few months to see how things are going? I think that would be an appropriate way to look at this. And I think it's okay we get, for example, I kind of roll in. You guys were here first. I'm not a morning person. So you're going to have to get used to that. Okay. I stay up very late at night, okay, doing a lot of this. So it's mostly just getting used to our styles, how we communicate with each other. And maybe let's just give that a chance informally first and then move on to a retreat. That would be my suggestion at this point.
Commissioner West?
Yeah, at the retreat, often 5 colleagues from all different walks of life get together to set vision, to be leaders, to get to know each other, to build trust, to make a plan that can last a number of years, that brings stability to a county. And it's really hard to do that when there's so much looming unknowns with one of the 5 colleagues. It's hard to build that trust, it's hard to make that plan, and then we do it all over again, and there's a lot of potential upheaval. I want to make sure that how we ever move forward, we're steadying the ship here, but there is kind of a cloud hanging over us right now, and so I'm concerned about that, and I don't want to put my busy life and schedule into something and my time and energy when it may all be for nothing at that time based on what situations that we can't control. I'm willing, Commissioner Schrader, to look at the future and to kind of play it by ear.
Oh,
I'm not like a
okay.
hard no never, but I'm very concerned about this issue and how it impacts future governing in Clackamas County. We have to be stewards of this county, and we're entrusted with a lot of sensitive things here, and we do important work. And it's hard to do that work when, frankly, we're all on eggshells and we have this looming over us. It's very difficult. And there's going to be issues building trust. So with that in mind, that's where I'm coming from. At this time in January, I know that you may want all 5 commissioners. I won't be attending if you guys choose differently than me.
And again, my suggestion is we all get to know each other first at this point. Every time, well, I've been here a while, so has Paul, and every time that there is a board transition, there's always bumps along the way. It's just the way it is. So my philosophy is to work with people and help them succeed. With the previous chair, I told her my job was to help her be the best chair she could be. I offer that to you. I offer that to Commissioner Fireside, Commissioner Savas. We've known each other so long, and you're my buddy. So got you there, even though we don't agree all the time. But I love you. So okay. So I would let's just get the tone level down and give it some time, and then bring it up at a later date. I think that's the better way to do it. I'm repeating myself. I know. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, just to build on the conversation a little bit, but first I have a question. The question is, Gary, once the board decides we're ready for a retreat, how long will it take to queue that up and prepare?
Probably the soonest would be at least a 3-week window, so we can get a consultant on board. We'd hire someone externally to guide and facilitate the retreat. So the soonest would be 3 weeks once you tell me to go.
Okay. So I want to just build on Commissioner Schrader's point she's making a little bit, a couple of them. One being, I want to offer my help, assistance in helping both Commissioner Roberts and Commissioner Fireside orient themselves and get the legs out underneath them. And I think there's also value in that when we do have the retreat, that I think some of that time and learning the county a little bit, how things work, you'll have new ideas maybe that you don't have today, or have maybe in a few weeks, that would kind of give the more value to the retreat. So I think time is not necessarily, a few months or a month or whatever it may be, is not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm okay with later. But I do think there's value, again, in getting our legs underneath it. Been on 5-person boards for 25 years, and through attrition and rotation, I know it takes time for people to understand what the district's about or the commission about or whatever it may be. And it's just natural. So I was sharing once here recently that if we have a retreat really early, hypothetically in January, I would recommend we have one late in the year, because that very point I'm trying to make is that what we learn in the next few months will really change the outcome of the retreat and the ideas and changes you all want to have. So I don't see, again, repeating myself here, but I don't see necessarily that a little bit of a delay or a few months out is necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, I might just interject a few comments if I could. First and foremost, I want to validate what everybody has to say here today. I think that from my viewpoint and kind of my experience has been strategic planning, goal setting, and building a consensus amongst this board is really key in us moving forward. I feel like we have a lot of consensus in a lot of issues already. I think that what my hope is in this planning is that we can create some urgency and come around really together to move things forward. And I can just tell you from my experience, I've done it in a number of different avenues where I've seen tremendous benefit from it. And I think that it's very exciting to be working with this board. I think that I believe the citizens expect us to really come together and formulate this. And I guess what I would ask maybe is I'm always trying to find common ground amongst all of us, right? And if I could ask my fellow colleagues to perhaps consider letting us get something on the agenda. As Gary mentioned, this can take a month to get somebody set up. And there's a lot of important work to do in that time. I feel like we can really have some meetings where we're kind of building this, I call it a team, and want to make sure that we're all successful and we're doing really the very best for the constituents that we serve. So I'd ask you to consider that. We can always pull it off the agenda, but I would ask to at least let's try and get that set. And over the course of the next month, we have some discussion about what do we want on it, because that's a big conversation, as well as what do we want to talk about? What are the priorities? And so over the course of the next month, we can start those discussions and really begin to kind of plan how we can move forward. So I guess I'd want to hear from my colleagues. Does that sound like it's a possibility?
Yeah,
Paul,
so,
go ahead.
Chair, I appreciate your leadership in that arena there. I don't disagree. Perhaps I might suggest maybe to get things moving a little bit would be maybe our staff could, our PAs could work with each of us to maybe go through a list of things that we think we want to have for topics and coverage, and then see where we are, and then maybe bring this back and after that work is done, and maybe see if we're ready to set a date at that point. But maybe just get the ball rolling a little bit to at least ask us and get a list going of all those typical topics we want to see. I didn't know if we have a one-day retreat, two-day retreat. Gary mentioned two, so maybe even Gary's direction and input on what he'd like to see, so we can have maybe a working draft of what the contents and the agenda would be for a retreat as a way to get things moving.
Great. Gary?
Thank you, Chair. I have a recommendation, Commissioners. Let me go ahead and pick a date in early March. How's that? And that gives us time for me to hire a contractor, and we can work what Commissioner Savas just recommended, work with all of you individually on things you'd like to see on the agenda. I'd like to contribute, bring that back to you at an issues for your discussion, but we just have a date certain that we know it's coming. Would you be open to that, Commissioners?
Commissioner West?
Just logistically, I'm recently finding out that I might be required to do annual training for the U.S. Navy on early March. I do not know for sure yet, but I can keep in contact with with you, Gary, on that.
We could do the end of February then. We'll make it work.
Okay. All right.
Is that,
We're in Ledge Days. Aren't we in Ledge Days in March? Yeah.
Yeah,
is that,
That's Ledge Days too.
yeah.
is there some consensus on that we can
Yeah, we'll
really
find.
start there?
Let's just start and find a date. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay? I think, you know.
Commissioner West?
I'll take it under consideration.
Okay.
I'm a little bit torn because, Chair Roberts, I want to see you be successful. I've already enjoyed our conversations about so much common ground we have in issues that really impact people's lives and fixing things here in Clackamas County and doing good work that we do. But I'm also legitimately torn over the other situation we find ourselves in. And it's hard to have a team with that looming, just to be honest. So I'm just struggling. Like, I value that, and I want you to be successful. I think it is necessary for you to help you even more, to bring your team together. I understand that. I also just have the realities that we face now that weigh heavy on me.
Any other comments? I think we have some direction to kind of move forward, and Gary, I might just add that perhaps in the meantime, I think one of the things that would help us a little bit, me personally, is hearing from some of the directors and getting some updates, so I can kind of catch up where you guys are slightly ahead of me.
Yeah.
So maybe we can make that happen as well.
And we have department briefings with Commissioner Fireside and Chair Roberts. That is also a good chance you could ask the directors directly there. That's happening in 2 weeks. So my direction I'm hearing is I am going to tentatively schedule a date in late February, early March, to put it tentatively on your calendars. I'm going to work with the chair on hiring a facilitator for the meeting, and your staff will work with you individually on things you'd like to see on the agenda. I will contribute, and we'll bring that back to issues to help formalize the topics prior to your agenda.
Yes, I just wanted to make one comment, Gary. You know, I'm very involved with the National Association of Counties, and I'm involved in a prosperity initiative at the national level, and I think at the end of, I'm just throwing this out so you guys are aware, they're asking us to go at the end of February, beginning of March. In other words, a few days early. I'm sorry about this. So maybe later in February would work. I mean, middle of February?
I'll work it out that you all can be there. We'll figure it out.
Great.
Okay,
Our
thank you.
calendars are already filling up.
I know.
We're on it. Staff's on it.
There we go. All right, Gary, what's up next?
Thank you. All right. Next, and these are many housekeeping topics for your first meeting. Thank you for indulging this. Next, consent agenda review process. What you witnessed today, Commissioners, is something relatively new to the board on how to review consent agenda items, which is what you saw today. Tuesdays, staff brings forward recommended agenda items for consent agenda. Staff comes forward, gives you a quick briefing, and then answers your questions. That actually is not how it used to be done prior to the current board. In prior years, actually, pretty much consistently, the consent agenda items went directly to your business meeting agenda on Thursdays. There was no presentations on Tuesdays. And then Thursdays at your business meeting, if you had a question, you pull the item from consent, and then staff comes up at that point to answer your questions. So there's pros and cons to doing it either way. I think the reason the prior board did it the current way you saw today was there are some really important things that you approve on consent, and you don't discuss them on Thursdays. It's just you read them and vote. Where here on Tuesdays, you have a chance to talk, ask good questions, and the public can see perhaps a bit more transparently the items you discuss. However, it takes a lot of time. You have a lot of department directors who are very well paid sitting in this room waiting to go through the item. So on Thursdays, it's a bit more condensed, a bit more concise, a bit more efficient, but also perhaps not as transparent because we just read it. And people can read the staff reports if they're curious what's going on. So I'm seeking your direction. Which format would you like to do? We can wait if you want to think about it, but if you'd like to give direction to me and staff, I'd appreciate that. So the version you saw today, or back to the prior version, was it goes directly to Thursday business meeting agenda, no Tuesday discussion.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, let me put a bit more context to this. Martha and I have been here a long time. The way we used to do it, not just the consent agenda, I'm going to digress. So consent agendas are typically small items that don't really require a lot of time and attention, that are on the consent agenda for the very purpose that, don't want to spend a lot of time on it, put that on consent and move everything else along. However, the way we worked here at the county before, our Tuesdays were, like an early morning executive session, and the remainder of the day were the work sessions for some of the items that are now kind of been rolled into the consent agenda, so to speak, where they really don't, they're more meaty items, right? So whether that is a work session kind of an environment, but we used to have work sessions, in the morning up till lunch, and then come back after lunch, and then have the remainder of the work sessions. And then sometimes that would flow into Wednesday, and then we'd have our business meeting with the consent items on there. And there was a week or so from the time the materials come out for the next week for any commissioner to review the consent agenda. If they had any items, they could pull it or they could ask questions about it. It was the responsibility of each individual commissioner to point out anything that's on the agenda. You had a week to say, hey, I want to meet with staff and answer my questions, the packet's not clear, whatever it may be. So that's the way we used to do it. So it's not just the consent agenda, it's how we work on Tuesdays, right? And so I just want to, so after giving you that background, I guess, Gary, what I would like to say is, what is the threshold for something typically that is on the agenda? For example, we did renewals here today. So to renew a contract with minor amendments or amendments being made, I would think that would be a consent agenda item. New items that we haven't seen before, maybe or maybe not. Maybe there's a dollar value. But while I think they're informative and they help educate all of us on what's going on, I think we got to establish what the threshold is so we all know if it's going to be a change and it's going to be consent, and we're not going to have the time spent on Tuesdays, that we define what that threshold is, so for clarity purposes. That's a lot said.
If I may, Chair, so yes, the intent is consent agenda is always routine items, things that have already been approved by prior boards, contract renewals. It should never be new things, but sometimes that slips, but always new things comes to the board at a policy session or a further issues discussion. So I'm committing to you that we'll do better on that consent will always only be routine things you've already heard of or talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, some input that I've heard is just that it was a little bit more cost effective. We have expensive staff here presenting on standard items that are consent agenda and move forward. And I think the opportunity presents to us that if there are questions, we can take it off the agenda, we can discuss it in more detail. And I really believe if Gary has ability to bring us the information to make sure that we're fully informed on it, just trying to be conscientious of staff time, and how we can be as efficient as we can. So for some reason, there was a change. Martha, you used to do it the other way, and Paul, so I think that perhaps this is a direction we could go. Do I kind of see some consensus on it? It looks, sorry, Commissioner
Yeah,
West.
just thinking about, I've never done it that way. I've always done it the previous, the only way I've known the last 2 years was the 3 days a week. I do like the idea of like having a solid work day and really getting to more of the meat of certain issues. I think that's a fair criticism that maybe in the last format didn't allow us to do as robustly. And we do deal with a lot of big meaty issues, and so this, I think, will allow us to do that. And then it frees up another day to be involved in the community or in the county in some way. So it also might give us additional flexibility. So if this, I'm fully supportive of it if my colleagues are.
Great.
Thank you. So today, I'm just asking you about the consent agenda process, not your meeting day schedules. That actually was a topic for the retreat, but I need to talk to Chair Roberts now that the retreat's delayed, how he would like to bring that back to you. That's not the discussion today. That will be discussion for you, the days and times you work. But for now, I'm just asking you, is it okay if we move consent strictly to Thursday business meeting agendas? There will not be a Tuesday review like you've seen today. It'll go directly to the agenda on Thursdays. You can pull an item that day to ask questions or ask questions prior to have them answered. That's what I'm asking you today, please.
Commissioner West.
So what would a Tuesday look like? And then I'm a little confused.
So all the, and this actually has been since you've been a commissioner, Commissioner West. So all the consent agenda items you reviewed today would not be happening on Tuesdays.
So go to Thursday.
Go directly to Thursday business meetings.
So then
on the
Tuesday's a
consent.
work session day?
Tuesday would be, well, there's still issues, topics that I bring forward to you
Okay,
that are non-consent agenda.
okay.
And there would be time to do policy sessions now on Tuesday mornings and afternoons if the board agrees.
Does that mean we free up Wednesdays or no?
That's a discussion for you to have
That's-
later, on the days of the week and the times you want to meet. This does free up more time on Tuesdays for more meaty discussions with the board and policy sessions by removing consent on
And
Tuesdays.
executive session is still
Yes,
on Tuesday.
Executive sessions,
It's
yes.
still Tuesday morning.
Still Tuesday mornings, correct.
I know, I mean, it seems kind of convoluted that we're not talking about it, but we are kind of talking about it. Okay, I'm just curious, like, as our schedules are filling up right now, and I've already have things that say need confirmation, need understanding on like what our work week looks like. We're into week 2 of January, and I don't know what my actual work week totally looks like.
And I think that's something we can probably have a further discussion on another time.
Yes,
I think that was one of the ideas, to hopefully have that maybe at the retreat, but if we're not doing that, I think we can have some discussion about bringing that to the board and look at some different options.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I do want to just support the recommendation to move consent back to consent on Thursdays only. Everyone has the opportunity a week to study the agenda, ask staff questions on anything related to that. I think that'll free up time. We have the opportunity to put anything we want on issues. So you could even possibly put something that's consent on it, that's on the list there too as well. But with respect to our 2 newest commissioners, give them opportunity to discuss and learn topics and the educational aspects and opportunities to have a more robust discussions on Tuesday. I see that opening up, but my sarcastic element of the last 4 years of spending so much time, I felt like I spent 4 years on the consent agenda, and I think we spent too much time. So I look at not only the cost of our staff and the time, but I think it took away from some of the value of some of the things we ought to be working on that we couldn't seem to find time for. So, and I think both Commissioner West and Commissioner Schrader recall a number of items we wanted to talk about we never got to because we spent 4 years on the consent agenda. That's my sarcastic
I agree.
response. Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, my recollection is too that we used to have very robust Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in terms of really getting into the meaty stuff. I have found this, helpful to review, but as you said, it really is our responsibility to review it ahead of time and ask our questions prior to Thursday. And I think that's also, again, will free up our staff time to be doing other job-related duties. So,
Great. Thank you, Martha.
yep.
So I'm hearing consensus then that we will move consent agenda items only to Thursday business meetings, no longer to discuss on Tuesdays like you did today. And then questions you have, you can ask me or staff prior, or you pull the item at the Thursday business meeting. Let me confer with Chair Roberts on when to bring back a discussion on the meeting days and times, maybe as soon as next week. But I'll talk with Chair Roberts offline about that. We'll come back to you on that topic. All right. Very good.
Thank you, Gary. What's next on the agenda?
Next, so very quickly, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, January 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. You will have a board discussion item on selection of 2025 board vice chair, as we discussed today, but you'll make the decision this Thursday. Also, you will select the 2025 board vice chair for the Housing Authority of Clackamas County, which you're also the governing body for. It will be the same person you selected for the board vice chair, but you formally make a vote on that as well. All of the consent agenda items you reviewed today will be on this Thursday's agenda for your vote. And you'll have the normal course of business, public communication, and commissioner communications. If you have any question on any item for this Thursday, please let me know, and staff is happy to answer it for you prior to Thursday. All right, next, Supportive Housing Services Draft Comment Letter. Commissioner West has drafted a letter, and I understand there's a revised version, but Commissioner West, if you'd like to explain the letter and your proposal, please.
Yeah, thank you. So we've had a lot of discussions with Metro, the cities in the metro area and the counties regarding the SHS tax. Historically, voters passed this tax 3-4 years ago. 3 years ago? Recently, we're in the first kind of half of the 10-year tax. For our new commissioners, Clackamas County voted no, Washington County barely passed it, Multnomah County passed it. The tax is in place for 10 years to deal with supportive housing services, homelessness, addiction, trying to build infrastructure and service providers up so we can deal with the chronic crisis that we're all dealing with and seeing in our communities. There's been conversations about changing the board of governance, changing the reducing the tax rate, and changing the structure of things overall, extending it out for many, many years to continue the tax rate. And so right now there's been a lot of conflict and tension between the cities and counties are kind of together and Metro. So it's like local governments kind of at odds a little bit, or tensions, or negotiating with Metro. The NGOs and groups like Here Together are at the table. The business community, mostly in the Portland area, large corporations are at the table having conversations. And so we've had a lot of conversations with the other counties and this board about what do we believe is the best way to move forward. This letter, after conversations with Council President Peterson and Metro, this letter was even asked for so Clackamas County could be a clear voice on how to move forward with the policy. I think this letter captures the history of where this board has been and how we want to see it move forward. And if you look at the letter, you'll see there are 6 bullet points, basically. That's the Metro's language from the resolution, and then our response to that language is how it's laid out, and it addresses our concerns. This board has been reluctant to give up its autonomy, its ability to have local control. We've been reluctant to, we've been concerned about the large amount of administrative costs that Metro is accumulating, and about pulling out the rug from under us as we just start getting going and start really doing good work. Objectively, Clackamas County has had by far the best numbers and the best impact on this chronic crisis than any other county, I would say, in the state, and is impressive even regionally. If you look outside the state of Oregon, we have worked really hard to do what we've done, and we have more work to do. And we saw a presentation from Adam Brown where if Metro's plan went forward, that we would go off a funding cliff. The red line was not appealing, but it was quite concerning when you look at the graph. And we want to make sure that we continue the resources necessary to do what the voters asked us to do in a timely manner, and that's to get people restored back in our community and off the streets. So that's kind of the gist of this letter. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I will really quick will go over a couple of the updates. I don't know if they're redlined in your guys' copy, but there are a few minor updates, but I'll go over them really quick. Under 1, if you look at the second line there at the end of the page, it says at each county's discretion was added in this version. So the sentence reads, I support expanding the allowable uses of SHS funding to include acquisition, conversion, preservation, construction, and expansion of the affordable housing at each county's discretion. We also in this, in option 1, we're talking about how we also want to make sure that it's not just about housing, but if we need to also use additional funding received for building out that care continuum for wherever that person is, if they need detox, if they need inpatient care, if we need to build those facilities, that we have a little more flexibility beyond just housing for those fundings. If you go to 3, the change is the last sentence, Each county will create an individual program by which the region's cities will receive programs and services. Cities' allocation contracts should be added to each county's local implementation plan on a regularly reported on. One of the things that set us apart as a county is that early on, we, in a recovery-oriented system of care, realized that the county is not the only stakeholder in this, and we have to have all our stakeholders engaged, which includes our cities, its businesses, its faith communities, it's your neighbor, it's the Little League, it's everybody's on board to try to solve this problem. But we we allowed the cities to apply for grants to get funding for their community. Wilsonville's a little bit different than Lake Oswego, and Westland's a little bit different than Oregon City, but they have their community needs. And we provided individual tailored funding that gets closest to the people through the cities and partnered with them. Have a fantastic relationship with our cities. It worked out well. It was actually really a model that far outpaced and really was kind of a shining example over the last few years in the SHS tax. Really proud of our leadership in that. This continues to give counties the authority to work with the cities directly at their discretion to continue to partner to be more effective and more nimble on the ground to deal with people that are in this space. And then the other one that had the change is, I think it's important that we're really cautious with decreasing this tax rate. I know people are shocked that I'm saying that. Ideally, we would not be decreasing the tax rate. Write it down. It's the first time, maybe the only time you'll ever hear me say that, but I'm saying it today. But to kind of have a little understanding the pinch with businesses are leaving, populations leaving Oregon, is to do a very minimal tax decrease with metrics that are met to show that we've earned it. And that we're not going to put the counties in a bind with the services and the plans they're already committed to. And it gives us still the ability to move forward with the infrastructure that we have planned already. And then the last kind of change in this letter, since you guys all got the draft before this, so I'm just going over the changes, not the whole thing. How do we deal with budget allocations and budgeting revenues? This one has I'm going to read this one where it has significant changes here in number 6. It says, I support the current model of funding allocations in which all collected revenue, except collections and metro administration fees, are distributed to the counties. Clackamas County receives 21.33% of what is generated. There is no need to set arbitrary floor or ceiling on this volatile funding source. Maximum flexibility should be given to the counties. Here are some additional considerations, and you've read those already. There were conversations about they would set funding, some debate over where the funding ceiling should be set, and then over and beyond that, you would get like one-time Christmas tree, one-time funding sources that weren't really you can't rely on them, but they kind of arbitrarily are arguing on where that ceiling should be set before those additional funds are allocated out to counties. And we're okay with the current funding model, and we don't need to be looking forward to this one-time funding source when it may or may not be coming, and the tax is quite volatile. So we didn't want to mess with that and really set these arbitrary floors, which it isn't clear why they set certain, well, the counties want it so high that they'll never, that they won't have to ever deal with having a reduction in funds, and Metro wants it lower so that you can have a reduction in your funds. So that just kind of keeps it as a status quo. I'm more than happy to try to answer questions. It's been a lot of work with all these different governing bodies at the table, but I'm proud of Clackamas County. We've been a major leader and a good voice in this space. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, I appreciate Commissioner West taking the lead on this letter. I want to give my colleagues a little bit of background. Some of you have heard this before, but just to reiterate, when we learned of this effort by Metro to maybe potentially put this on the ballot, we were not as fully informed about what the chairs of the 3 counties were discussing, apparently, and neither were their boards to some degree. So that's not just exclusive to Clackamas County. So I think we sent a letter, this board approved a letter in September asking Metro Council to engage the elected officials in the region, primarily the county commissioners and the Metro Council, to sit around a round table and have a discussion and share our experiences, good, bad, otherwise, our learned experiences, and help shape this. That letter was received. We got I would say a weak response, almost a no response, kind of a letter back. And it's been a hodgepodge from September forward of Metro Council going out to everyone else but the counties, including the cities, to talk with them individually. So we've all been, it's been this fragmented approach. It really hasn't been a collaborative, assigned group of people that the whole region agrees on. That was the purpose of the roundtable recommendation that we made. So therefore, this is broken apart. I've heard from substantial number of mayors and city councilors, both in Clackamas County and other counties as well, Multnomah and Washington County, about their thoughts and concerns about this. So I know that there is a lot of resistance to what the Metro Council proposal is. So, but we're not all on the same page, and I appreciate the effort to get us on the same page. Chair Roberts, I haven't had an opportunity to really chat in detail because I know you have a lot on your plate. Commissioner Fireside, I appreciate our conversation in middle of November, I believe, when I try to get to know you over the phone. So we talked for about an hour on this. It sounds like you were taking close attention to this. So I appreciate that. So I think I recall from that conversation approximately where you are, which I think is a similar place where we are in this letter. So that said, Commissioner West, we were considering, or you're considering, trying to get the cities on board as well through C4. So Thursday night is our C4 meeting, and maybe there's an opportunity to get the cities to sign on, even though it'll be a very short time frame. I think Metro needs us by the 9th of January.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the changes. I'm good with the changes. I just wanted to highlight, though, there are some amendments. I counted 11 ayes that need to be switched to we's, yes. Okay? So staff, I've circled them. May have missed one, but there's 11 of them that need to be switched around there. My major issue with all of this, and I just want to say that with the governance model especially, I really believe that the elected leaders that are responsible for providing the services, counties primarily, and some cities ought to have a voice and be the governance model. It should not be members of the community they don't have any elected responsibilities, right? They haven't taken an oath of office. They're not responsible to the voters. And that's also my concern with 2 decades of an extension, 30 years, is that how none of us will be around. No one will be accountable 30 years for what the previous boards did or didn't do. I see, unfortunately, finger pointing if it turned out to be a failure. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be consequences if the accountability measures or the metrics are not proving or not working. There needs to be a method, call it a consequence, call it a method to peel this back and put it before the voters if it's not working. So I think we need a couple years of time to work out what that might be if there is an extension. I think the need's still going to be there, frankly. So I'm good with all of that, and I think each county needs to have autonomy because each county is different. There's a saying at AOC and around the state, you've seen one county, you've seen one county. We're all different. And some of our established H3S services are unique in each county, so therefore they offer services today prior to this SHS measure that are still being employed. So therefore, that's why we need autonomy on that. So a lot said, but I just asked for, I move to, I'm ready to accept it, but I just want to make, the only amendment I have is the 11 ayes to we's.
Okay, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Savas. I'm in support of this letter. My concern going to the meetings, the few that I had an opportunity to go to, I was not happy with the fact that it was a mixture of, I'm a big supporter of NGOs and our nonprofits that do social service work, so I'm going to put that out front. However, those NGOs and we are the elected officials that are responsible in the end for where this money goes and how it's used and what we need to do to serve our constituents. And I was quite dismayed to have NGOs at the table literally, quite frankly, running the discussion. I found that very, very awkward and unprecedented. I believe that counties, we have the oldest housing authority in the state of Oregon, 1937. We've been successful at what we've been doing here in all the 20-odd years I've been here. with how we've built up our housing supply and how we've serviced people. And I do want to let you know that Commissioner Savas and I, and he was the guru of numbers, but we were both under extreme pressure because we were being told we had to borrow money from Metro in order to get this started, and we refused to do so. We basically sat with our finance people, and we waited to see what the flow was going to be of the funding before we did anything. Because we did that, we actually did get funding, and that is, I think, the key to our success. And there is no real good reason to regionalize this. I also believe that it would put us in conflict with another organization that applies for HUD dollars for housing. We don't need them to apply for HUD dollars for us. We do that ourselves, and we do it very, very well. So I enthusiastically support this, and I'm hopeful all of us will have an opportunity to sign it. So anyway.
Commissioner West.
I say this all the time, but I'll say it again, but this is the moral crisis of our generation, what we're dealing with here, what we're seeing in our streets. And the sense of urgency is yesterday. It's now. And to do these changes the way that they've been proposed takes all accountability and the sense of urgency away and makes this kind of a perpetual new giant system. When you extend this thing out for more years than any of us will ever be here and make it forever tax basically, then you take away the responsibility that we have as electeds to be accountable for these policies that we're trying to implement to solve this problem. Clackamas County is also being held responsible and unfairly held responsible because of failures of other counties that we share borders with, where we've been successful, others have not seen that same success. But policy has real outcomes. Policies that we pass have real fruit to them. It's either good or it's bad. And Clackamas County has operated within a specific philosophy that is different, and we have the best outcomes. We have governed well. Our staff has done fantastic and creative. Under Rod and Mary, the leadership has been amazing. Under Gary, we've worked very well on this and been creative, and we purposefully have tried to do things outside the echo chamber and the status quo, and that's why we're successful. But this new effort, I believe, actually kind of hogties us a little bit and kind of holds us back a little bit and makes it to where it can be less effective because of where others have not been successful and the public doesn't trust us. So now we're asking to make wholesale changes to the resources the voters gave us when they don't trust us, and the region itself has not yet been successful. I was just over the holidays in Portland, and I hear it might be getting better. It's not what I saw with my own eyes, and that's how people feel. People feel that. They say, I'm being told by the media, my electeds, that this is better, but that person isn't housed or getting treatment, and they're half naked in the middle of the street having a schizophrenic break. And I just want to try to get in and out of my birthday dinner at Jake's. Right? Like, that's what people are really feeling. And this proposal by Metro, I believe, actually makes it harder for us to deal with that situation effectively. And so I think that this is a really good shows pragmatic leadership about how I think it catches the right tone of the voters, those who pay this tax. I think that we were asked to what happened was I was asked to help draft this letter by Council President Peterson because, she respects where we've been with this. And I think that this is it shows that where we want to go policy-wise. And since I think we've been the most successful county in this issue, I think our voice really does matter. So originally it says I because I didn't know if we have enough time for it to have the board's approval. I've talked to Mayor Joe Buck. I has been such a breath of fresh air on this issue. He's been such a champion to work with, and he's been great in these rooms with Metro and the other chairs. And yes, the C4, but I think that that's in the evening, and we have to get this out during the day. Joe also talked about bringing it forward to the mayor's group that's specifically tied to this issue and championing this. This is very similar to their letter. I just had a long conversation with Joe, and so I really appreciate his collaborative work. We have had many long conversations about this, and so he's been great. So yeah, I hope it looks like we're going to pass this. I'm really excited by it, but I think it shows good leadership, and thank you for your guys' support.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap this up, ideally, I'm hoping, again, this letter is not a definitive document or, I will say, earth-shattering. It's going to be one of many inputs into this whole process. It'll be factored in. But ideally, what we've learned and is that this board and C4, when we all work together, we all speak with the same voice. When we vote for things 5-0 or unanimously at C4, that goes a long ways. It sends a strong signal. So ideally, I just encourage my colleagues, if we get a 5-0 vote today on this, and happy to answer any questions or alleviate any concerns, I think it would go a long way towards getting a strong message sent and show collaboration, and I think it'll help bring our city partners on board as well. So that's my friendly request. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the letter with the amendments of striking the i's and converting those to we's and whatever grammatical corrections need to be made.
Are we all going to sign?
So I think one issue first. So we got, Paul's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Martha's second. Now, discussion?
All right, do we all want to sign it, or does the chair himself just want to sign it if we all vote for it?
First decide if you approve the letter or not.
Okay.
After that, then you can
Decide
discuss
that. Okay.
signatures. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think some of the discussion, first of all, I want to comment on your hard work on this. And as the new chair, I'm definitely working hard to try and get my arms around this issue. I've talked to a few people, and I want to meet with H3S, get a better understanding on this matter. While I agree on many of the points, I think right now my position is really to, when we get to a vote, is to abstain. I want to get more information about this, but I do believe it's an important issue, and think that that's important for us to be united on this effort. So it's not that I'm not, I want to have a better understanding, so I want to comment on that. So Commissioner Fireside.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Chair Roberts. I don't feel that, as just right out the gate, that I have my arms wrapped fully around this and can support this letter. So I'll be abstaining as well. One of the concerns or questions that I have is, what does this actually mean to programming and actually people and children being served around the 5% reduction? And I did send that information off to Administrator Schmidt, and I do very much appreciate the feedback. But without that information, that's one of the areas that I don't feel comfortable with making that broad sweeping. So I will be abstaining at this time. Thank you.
And Commissioner West.
I want to give just a tiny bit of feedback, like context on our 5%. I believe it was more than 10. The chairs that Commissioner Savas had talked about had come down to some number, I don't know why, to 10%, maybe because it sounds good. And then we started to say, like, we still see that cliff in service funding. Like, there's a real possibility that people will be back on the streets, not getting the care that they need, not getting into the care continuum. And so we're trying to also find that a little bit of reduction while still being able to maintain services, and we believe it's at that 5%. The county is 5% or no reduction has been what tone we are now taking.
Yeah, I also want to comment, really follow up with what Martha had to say about H3S. And I know Rod Cook's in the back of the room, and so is Mary Rumbaugh. And I've had the chance to work with Rich Swift, with Veterans Village, and really countless really positive efforts that were ahead of many other counties. And just a gratitude for all the work that's been done. I mean, it is really important work, and I hope in my new role that I can even step up more to help support accomplishing many of those things that I think we all agree impact citizens in our community and really want to make it a priority. So for those of you in the back of the room, I just want to say thank you for your hard work and really echo what Martha has said for some time now. So thank you. So I think we've had a motion, a second, and I would call the clerk to do a poll, please.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Fireside.
Abstain.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Abstain. So it's 3-2. And the next question Gary's keeping me in line as then who would sign it, and I would like to have a discussion about that to kind of get that direction.
So if I may, so you have two options. The three commissioners who voted yes can sign it, and just the three of you. The cons to that are, it's very clear who voted yes and who voted no or did not vote. Just be aware of that. Or one of you would sign it on behalf of the board, because technically the board approved this, a quorum of the board. So those are your two options for your consideration.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I would suggest that the chair sign the letter. It's coming from the board, it's board decision, so if the chair is okay with that, that would be my preference. If it doesn't come from the chair, then I think it sends the wrong message, that it's not a board decision, it's still a board decision. So as the spokesperson of the board, it seems appropriate that the chair sign the letter.
And if I may, so the chair has the choice, because the chair in this case abstained. You could delegate this to one of your other colleagues to sign it. That's your choice. Don't put any pressure on you, but you have choices too.
Commissioner West?
I like the idea of if it's a board decision, everyone signs it, but you did abstain. I don't think that precludes you from signing it. It's a letter I worked really hard on and have been in negotiations with and talking with Lynn Peterson, so she knows the letter's coming and that I've worked on it. I also be more than happy to sign it on behalf of the board and still show it's a board decision, and then Lynn already also knows it's coming from the staff that I've worked with. So that might just be congruent with how it's happened. But I'm open to whatever, but I'd be more than happy to also sign on behalf of the board.
I think my request would be is having you sign it, or if there's an agreement to extend this, to give me just a little bit of chance to dive into this and meet with H3S and make sure that I'm just comfortable with it. That's so I would say those are kind of two options. It's not that I'm opposed to it, but I just feel like I need to get my arms around it and make sure I fully understand it. It's a very important issue to me and you.
Yeah.
And is there anything I'd like to see added to it? So
Yeah.
I just really recently saw this, so I appreciate it. I can tell you did a lot of hard work.
Yeah, no.
So I have a recommendation, because Commissioner West has really been assigned to the SHS work. So why don't you have it signed, Commissioner West, our board's SHS representative? That would give it some extra merit that it rightfully deserves. One other comment I made, aside from that, is that my reservation with this is the amount. Oddly, I don't believe any cuts in order. We need to be mindful that inflation and the cost of providing services has gone up. So therefore, while we are over collecting, we are actually underfunded at the same token. So I just want to echo that this agreeing to the 5% is a compromise, knowing that there seems to be regional momentum with this. So it's really the regional olive branch in which I'm agreeing to the 5%. But if I had my own way, I'd retain the amount, only because I know we need to provide more and we don't have enough resources to do it today.
So may I clarify, are we adding the line on behalf of the board under Commissioner West's signature?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to move forward? Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. We're at the last item is Commissioner Communication Liaison Updates. This is a chance for commissioners to share with your colleagues things you've been working on this week, things you'd like to share with the board, things you'd like to share with the public. If you're a committee liaison, what's going on with the committees you serve on. It's very free-flowing. You could decline. You also do this Thursdays at the business meeting, so twice a week you have a chance to communicate with each other and the public. But there's no format other than that, and you take as long or short as you like. So that's what Commissioner Communications is, and that's the next item, Chair. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Gary. Before we begin on the Commissioner Communication, I just wanted to note that this board is aware of some concerns by the public regarding the investigation by law enforcement into one of our members. I just want to remind our colleagues who might comment on this matter that really at this time, there's no charges have been filed. The matter is at the investigative stage, and we must permit that process to proceed. Therefore, I will have no comment on this particular matter until investigation is complete, and I would ask let's let the legal system run its course, and let's focus on the business of Clackamas County. I rely heavily and have over the years in my service on county counsel and advice and listening to make sure that I'm following the letter of the law and making sure that we're doing the very best. So thank you for guidance on this matter as well, and I think that it's difficult for all of us. And so I would just ask us to have some patience, let the system play out, and with that being said, I want to turn it over to who I think is the most senior commissioner. Is that you, Martha?
I don't know.
If it's a, well, I'm trying to go for who has the most seniority, so I'm going to start with you.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
That's very kind of you. I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I had a great time with my family in Boston. I got out before Boston got snowed in, thank goodness, because I'd be zooming in if I was still out there at this point with the weather they're having out there. I'd like to mention that I have been doing national work with the National Association of Counties. In the past few years, I was chair of the Economic and Workforce Development Committee. I've been working with the Association of Oregon Counties. Gina is at a meeting now in D.C. Where they're going to be considering my candidacy for the president of NACO. Wow. Well, we'll see. I think it's a long shot, but it's nice to at least have people encourage you to throw your hat in the ring. So it's not done yet, but I will be making a decision on that within the next few weeks and how that works and where that goes. As I said, as being here for a while, I had an opportunity from the get-go to get involved with the organization, and it's where commissioners across the country, rural, urban, frontier, suburban, get together and work together on best practices. It's a fantastic organization. It has a great deal of standing on the Hill in terms of really talking about what the needs of counties are, not just our individual counties, but nationally as well. So more to be said about that. But thank you for letting me share. I appreciate it, Chair.
Thank you, Martha. I think next in seniority, I'm going to call on Paul. You're going to have to let me know who has the most.
Yeah. Well, I would say Martha was here before I was as a commissioner, and then she had a 2-year stint with the state senate, and so she broke. But I think I've served the longest continuous.
Right.
Yeah. So,
okay.
But Martha's still got more seniority than I have. So.
I've seen it all, Paul.
Yeah.
Seen it all, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. A few things that are kind of moving around a little bit. I just want to make you aware of first of all, before I say anything, I just want to again extend my offer to work with both our 2 new commissioners, Commissioner Roberts and Fireside, and whatever we can do to help and educate, learn, call me. I'm available to you whenever you want to call me to help through the business of the county, of course. And and Chair Roberts, you and I spoke this morning, I'm sure Commissioner Fireside also has a list, but I'd love to help you navigate that and prioritize that, and so offer whatever help I can. So back to some of my assignments on transportation. What is one of the things that is the state, the Joint Committee on Transportation has been doing this year is they've been going around the state doing roundtables, and then after that, they formed 3 work groups to work on a package about, if not tolling, then what, essentially, and also one on transit, one on maintenance, the cost, inflation, the cost of providing services everywhere has gone up, and therefore ODOT finds itself same thing with our DOTs, counties, cities as well. We find ourselves with a lack of resources, and our purchasing power has been diminished significantly. So consequently, there's been these work groups, and we have been filling out or discussing, having meetings. Surveys were submitted by the request of the Joint Committee on Transportation. There'll be a transportation package this year, likely. The last meeting will be next a brief one next Thursday, I believe, so, or Wednesday, Wednesday or Thursday. I might miss the meeting, the business meeting on next Thursday, if that's the case, so heads up on that, not this Thursday, but next. And I'll be able to give you a more updated thing. The legislatures are going to convene here pretty shortly, and it's going to be a wild year. It's always a wild ride, so that'll keep us on our toes and busy. But I just want to let you know that I attended all 3 roundtables in the metro region. I heard and talked to many people, and so I have a pretty good sense of where the region is. I am concerned that tolling is going to resurface, and I was a little bit stunned because we were supposed to have 2 more work group sessions in January, and those were canceled. And there's going to be really, I think, a final update, which again, it was scheduled for next week. So I'm concerned that it maybe was not robust enough to study the consequences of what the Clackamas County and the metro region experience with regard to our tolling work that we've done over the last few years. So I'm not sure that was accurately considered. We got to remember that state representation is such that votes of the state legislature are taken by people who live hundreds of miles away from the metro region on the other side of the mountain, and so our rural counties and so forth are very distant from the realities that we face up here. And I don't think we actually even had the mathematical and the finances fully displayed and presented to us on these work groups. So it's with a little bit of reservation that about the process I have going forward. But we're not the ones who's taken the vote in the state legislature. We're hoping for more funding to get across the finish line, but I think we have found that tolling's not it. But I just want to give you a heads up if you have any strong opinions that are different than that of what the board's established, which has been don't toll I-205 in Clackamas County. We've learned from our work that it has severe impacts. Diversion has been a primary issue. And the other one, I talked to give you a little bit of briefing about transit, working actively on that, because what we learned from tolling was it really shined a big light on this transit, because we were said, all those other legislators and all those other people said, well, just take transit. I go, well, believe it or not, there's no transit. There's no good means or alternative modes in this particular portion of the region. So it really shined a light on how much we're not really having, again, access to transportation modes other than driving a car. And I'll just keep it short, and I'll have more on Thursday.
Great.
So I yield back, Chair.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner West.
One of the things I love to talk about in Clackamas is, out of all 36 counties, or one of the big ones, one of the most populated ones right here in the metro area, we are the safest large county by Oregon State Police data. And out of all 36, we're the 8th safest by police data in the entire state. And I know that sometimes holiday seasons aren't always easy. They're not always cheerful for everybody, but I hope that everybody did have a fantastic Christmas and New Year's and time with their family and friends. But a really disturbing and sad story broke during the Christmas New Year season. On December 27, 2024, a Portland man in Clackamas County was allegedly stabbed by, he's 86 years old, he's allegedly stabbed by a 31-year-old Mexican national who had previously been deported and was charged with crimes of trying to murder one of his coworkers with a nail gun. Those charges were dismissed, probably because of fear from the victim, but he had a long history of violent crime and activity. And in Clackamas County, a man who never should have been stabbed was trying to carry his groceries out to his car. It's unfortunate that Oregon decides to protect criminal activity like this with its sanctuary state laws. I'm saying right now what Craig Roberts, when he was sheriff, could not have said. Or I don't even believe John Wentworth could say as our DA, or any police officer could publicly say who this person really is. I have not seen the media widely report on who this person is and why he never should have been here and why that elderly man never should have been stabbed in our county. And this concerns me because it is antithetical to our values of public safety. And we have the right to feel safe in our communities. We should be able to get our groceries at Christmas time and not get stabbed. We shouldn't have to worry about Grandpa getting his groceries and getting stabbed. And we absolutely should not have people here who have no right to be here, who aren't part of the fabric of this community and society, and aren't part of this melting pot, doing illegal activity over and over again and still being here. And we protect them. And once again, bad policy from the state level rolls downhill and we deal with it at the county level. Law enforcement has to deal with this. They're part of the county community. We have to deal with it in our own community. And I'm really saddened that this happened. It's interesting to me how the former Attorney General in Oregon, Ellen Rosenblum, made a very grandstanding statement about issues at the border and sanctuary state in Oregon. Had conflict with the new administration coming in, nothing shocking about that. But then shortly after that, this happens in our community. And I don't know what totally the laws are absolutely around this. I don't know how this intersects with the county. But I do feel like that the community should know that this is an issue that happened. And maybe there's no one else that's able to say it or will say it publicly, because in Oregon, maybe it's not popular to call this out, that this happened in our community by this type of individual. But it did. And I want to make it clear that I think that it was preventable, and I think it's horrific. And I hope that I don't know the outcome of this victim, this elderly man that was stabbed, but I hope he heals. I hope his family is with him. I hope he's okay. I don't know. But I don't think that we should, when we see this happen in our community, that we should be okay with Oregon not working with ICE to deport this guy. I think he should be deported. I think he should be held accountable and deported. But right now, law enforcement cannot talk about this the way I am right now with ICE and say, hey, he hurt our community, he's hurting Americans, he's hurting maybe even non-Americans, people who are legally here, people who have families and communities. And he has a repeat offender and he's already been deported. But we can't say that. I can say it, but many cannot, and we should be able to. So that's my concern. I don't know, council, like where we sit as a board, maybe beyond a bully pulpit and maybe just being brave enough to say something. But this is a pretty big case that happened recently over the holidays. Maybe some of you missed it because this didn't happen to our family, but it did happen in our community and to our neighbor. So I don't know what the state law totally allows us to do at a local level to protect our community, but I think our constituents would want to know how to prevent this in the future.
Anything else?
I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fireside.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for being so welcoming and supportive for the most part. And I'm just really looking forward to getting started and focusing on the work that we have to do. We have very urgent, important issues, and I'm just very thankful to be here, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to update everybody, I don't have any committee assignments yet, so I can't give any reports. I'll just I'm sure I will have quickly. But I want to say, it's an honor to be chair of the Clackamas County Commission. I admire my colleagues, all of them, and I look forward to working with each and every one of them, all the department directors. This is to me, very exciting times ahead. There's so much to do on the issues. I know Ben West and many of the other commissioners also believe in mental health, addiction and treatment, and affordable housing, and the list goes on, but those are kind of my top, and I'm very excited to kind of see us move forward and anything I can do to kind of help facilitate that. So with that, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves, jump in, and I'm relying on the guidance of county staff and others to help me along the way. I ask for some patience, and I will make mistakes. I usually always try and own up to them. So with that being said, hearing no other business, this meeting is adjourned.